Do you think it's possible for a hero's journey to become a heroine's journey, or vice versa? Does it work, or can it backfire?
It can backfire, certainly if you're in kind of the wrong genre, so to speak. There are certainly genres like crime thrillers where it's expected that the main character be a hero and behave like one and be on a hero's journey. And the audience would be pretty disappointed if they suddenly became a heroine. Similarly, romance, like you can't write a romance novel that's a hero that ends up alone. It like is contrary to the contract you have with your reader base. But there are other genres that straddle, that mix things up quite a bit. So like space opera, epic fantasy, like sort of these larger, more sprawling ones that have multiple point of views. You can have multiple different heroes and heroines in one series. And you can certainly do it with YA in particular. So a YA chassis mostly is a Builder's Roman chassis or a coming of age chassis. And that can take either proving yourself and finding your place through action and solitary achievement, or it can be proving yourself and finding your place through friendship groups and other people. So YA in particular kind of can be can be either or both in some cases. Especially contemporary. And the readers are kind of on board for the coming of age narrative. So their expectations around whether hero or heroine are much, much less well formed. If it's a YA romance, of course, different thing. So yeah, it does kind of depend on what genre. But yes, and they're very, it's very, like most things, it isn't binary. It's very amorphous, and there are heroes showing up and heroines, and how a hero and a heroine would interact when it's her journey versus his journey, that sort of a thing. Heroines that enter a hero's journey are often killed, but so, they make great plot motivations if he falls deeply in love with her and then she dies or betrays him. But that's a hero's journey for you. So yeah, so it like everything, it's much less simplistic than I put it to help with understanding. It gets way more complicated and a lot of fun if you're writing. But you do have to be careful if you're writing in a genre where the expectations are more towards one journey over another, certainly not to twist it and make it the other journey at the last minute. And if you write the whole thing as the quote unquote wrong journey for that genre, you will deal with market fallout from that. Either your readers would be very disappointed, or they'll just be like, this is not what I expected. The cover led me to one thing. This isn't really, like, I don't know why I hated this book so much, but I hated it. They hated it because, it was billed wrong, right? So yeah, you do have to be careful of something that I call reader betrayal, which is that the readers come to your book with expectations no matter what. And then those expectations are dictated by the cover art, the cover blurb, your name, if you're an established brand, all of that sort of a thing. They cannot avoid those expectations. It's not something, those expectations will be established in the first sentence if you gave them a completely blank book, right? And so satisfying those expectations is what makes it exciting for the readers. I mean, you mentioned this a little bit when you were talking about kind of reader surprise and predictability, and that there are some audiences that really like very predictable things and some audiences that really prefer to be a little bit more surprised by things. But there's also that fine line, which I really admire mystery writers in particular for, which is laying out plot and pace in such a way that the reader figures it out slightly before the main character does. And then the reader gets a sense of satisfaction along with it. Oh, and that's magical. Yeah, so that's and we who write very character driven stuff can do that with character too. So you can kind of write a character that like is maybe slightly unpredictable to your main character, but the reader kind of knows what's going on with them and what their motivation is. And so the reader can kind of know what that character is going to do. So your main character can be surprised, but the reader is like, oh no, I knew that character was going to be that way. Or you can redeem bad characters and surprise your readers through that kind of thing. So yeah, I always say that everything in commercial genre has a mystery element of some kind. It's just in fantasy, the mystery is about usually the magical system or learning more about the world. In sci-fi, the mystery is about the technology or the aliens or learning more about the universe. So yeah, and yeah, there's always something in romance. The mystery is about learning more about the other character, learning more about the void in somebody's heart that needs to be filled by this other human or humans.